I think a lot of times we are so comfortably uncomfortable doing the same old thing. Our brains are not designed to make us happy. Our brains are not designed to help us find our passion and purpose. They're designed to keep us safe and keeping that same old boring job, staying in that, dead-end relationship, having that threesome with Ben and Jerry's and not working on your health and well-being. We're safe. But in stepping outside that is a little scary. So a good way to connect with your passion and purpose, get started, is start to do some things that scare you. And maybe that means like you go on a roller coaster ride, or you jump off a cliff into water, or you book a trip on a vacation. You got to start somewhere and get unstuck. And that will help to open doors for what's next for you.
Hello, my name is Wing, and welcome to A Work in Purpose, the podcast for you to discover and ignite your purpose by hearing inspiring stories of how people have found their purpose in life and their insights and tips on how you can find yours too. When we think of the midlife period of our lives, we often associate it with a crisis, that it is all downhill from there. But does that have to be the case? Are there things you could be doing, leading up to, or during our midlife to flip the script upside down and thrive within our purpose instead? Our latest guest this episode, Dr. Ellen, the Midlife Whisperer, is here to tell us how we could do just that. Dr. Ellen is the author of the upcoming book, Rock Your Midlife, 7 Steps to Transform Your Life and Make Your Next Chapter Your Best Chapter. Dr. Ellen holds a PhD in psychology, and she is also a licensed nutritionist, a wellness and life coach, and a mindful self-compassion teacher. In this fascinating episode, you will hear the steps you can take to find and step into your authentic self, embrace your power, and attract more people who will lift you up in your life so that you can be the purposeful self you are meant to be. You'll also hear Dr. Ellen's story of how a messy period in her life led her down on her journey in becoming a work in purpose. Whether you are in your midlife now or are getting there one day, you will get something out of Dr. Ellen's insights that you can begin applying today to start living your best chapters of your life now. So let's begin. Hello, welcome to A Work in Purpose podcast, Dr. Ellen Albertson. So happy to have you on.
It's awesome to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super excited to share with your listeners today about how to find your purpose.
Yay, awesome. So you are known as the Midlife Whisperer, and you have a book coming out called Rock Your Midlife. So I guess the first question would be, what is the midlife stage of our life, and what are some of the unique challenges people face during their midlife?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that it's still definable. I think that area is becoming a larger area. What I like to kind of talk about a little bit is second adulthood. So we sort of have this first adulthood where we make a lot of mistakes. We kind of flounder a little bit, then find ourselves and really want to have a second adulthood. In terms of time frame, it's usually kind of considered, I think about it sort of your 40s through your 60s. But I also find, younger people too are kind of at this turning point. So, if you're listening, if you're younger, I know some of your audience is a little bit younger like yourself. It can just kind of be, you find yourself at midlife being like, okay, I don't know who I am or what I'm doing here and how do I find that? And I'm here really to say that when you get to that turning point, and you're sort of afraid to move forward, that's kind of that when you're sort of having a crisis and it's really time to open up and do something new. But, technically, I think we think about it as sort of 40s, 50s, and 60s. But I find people at all times of life are really kind of in the middle of their life and trying to figure out, like, it's not working for me and where do I go next?
And so when they are stuck, like, what are some of the signs that, I need to figure something else out for this phase of my life? What are some signs that people should look out for?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is your vibe, right? So when you kind of are aimless, you don't know where you're going, you can feel you don't have a lot of energy, you're not excited about getting up in the morning, you don't know exactly what to do. It's kind of like you're in this constant Groundhog Day. I don't know if you've seen that movie with Eddie Murray, where he wakes up every day and it's the same thing and you go through the same thing and you're asking yourself, what am I doing here? Who am I? I mean, I think sometimes we go after kind of pleasures, right? We think, success means I'm going to make a lot of money and have all of these like nice things, cars, and go out to eat and travel and all this stuff. But then you get to a place where you're not feeling very satisfied. And you're kind of trying to figure out, like, what am I doing here? It's sort of this existential crisis of like, how do I connect with my passion and purpose? I want to feel alive. Want to feel like I'm making a difference in the world. I want to get to that place of flow where I'm feeling creative, where my gifts are being challenged and I'm sharing those gifts and my creativity with the world.
Awesome. So when we are feeling stuck, what are the first things we should do? Like, what should we ask ourselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first thing to do is slow down. I think so often we're just trying to fix everything and we're in like problem solving mode. And so the first thing is to just connect with yourself. And in my book, Rock Your Midlife, 7 Steps to Transform Your Life and Make Your Next Chapter Your Best Chapter, the first step is really getting to know yourself. And so whether I'm working with a client or as I explain in the book, it's really about looking at what are my strengths? What do I love to do all day? What would I do if money weren't an object? What am I curious about? What did I love to do as a kid? So really figuring out who am I and what do I love? What makes me come alive? So the first step is really getting to know yourself. The second step is getting to love yourself. And I think we have a society where we're not always taught to love ourselves. We're kind of taught to beat ourselves up and be super self-critical. But what happens is when you start to love yourself, you get this great energy where you want to live a great life. You want to do what's best for you. And also you stop doing things that insult your soul. So you stop, a lot of times when clients are coming to me, they're leaning into Netflix and alcohol and, food and, shopping and all of these things to get a rise in what's called dopamine, which is the chemical of reward, because they're not feeling okay. So that's another sign you're not feeling okay. But when you love yourself, you start to be like, you know what, I can't keep going down that path. I don't like what's happening to my health. I don't like that, what's happening to my bank account. I know this isn't right for me. I need to make some changes. I'm not sure what to do. And the thing about getting unstuck is really just taking a square look at where you are right now, because, the strange paradox, as Carol Rogers says, is that, when you accept yourself where you are, that's really when you can start to change. So you kind of got to accept where you're at, get to know yourself, get to love yourself, and then you can start to make some shifts and do those things that are going to get you the forward momentum to find your passion and purpose.
Sounds great. Are there any common misconceptions about the midlife that you think we should get rid of?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I mean, the main thing is, it's like midlife is conjoined with crisis. Like if you put midlife in Google, you cannot, if you go 10 pages forward, you always see crisis. So it's associated with this crisis. And in a lot of ways, that's because we've created like an ego shell around who we're supposed to be. And I think we get to our 40s and 50s, we're looking at this place in our life where there's more time behind us and in front of us. And we're sort of like, gosh, I'm running out of time. But it's not a crisis. It's an opportunity to really get to know yourself, love yourself, empower yourself, connect with your soul, your spirit, and figure out what's next. And then there's also this whole idea that it's the wrong side of 40, this idea that, we're not attractive anymore and we're not energetic anymore and that it's all downhill. And I'm honestly at 58 having the time of my life. I'm super healthy. I'm in a great new relationship. I love my career. I'm having a blast. So I think that this whole idea of like, it's a terrible time of midlife is bunk, and that we can really make some changes and make it the best period of our life.
Sounds great. So I want to ask you about authenticity. So how does that relate to midlife, and how can people reclaim their authenticity to thrive?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, if you think about authenticity, the root of the word is author. So it's really understanding that you are the author. You have control over your life and you have a lot of power in kind of writing your own life, being the author of your life. And so it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about really getting to know yourself, figuring out who you are. Again, a lot of times we are trying to please other people. So we might always be putting on a mask, to please somebody else and, showing up in a different way than what is really authentic for us. And so the goal of authenticity is to kind of let go of who you're supposed to be. So who society says you're supposed to be, who your parents say you're supposed to be, your peers, and then, really embrace and figure out who the heck am I? What do I really like to do? What am I really, really good at? What makes me come alive? Like for me, one of my things is, I'm a really amazing cook. I was a celebrity chef in the 90s. I'm a dietitian. And I'm kind of a genius in the kitchen. My partner is an amazing gardener. I just go out in the back and I gather different produce. And I just somehow am able to bring it to life using all kinds of herbs and spices and sauces. And so I know like that's something that I love to do, looking at what's that thing that I would do all day long, if I could, where I lose that sense of time. So it's about, being yourself and having the courage to show up. And the root of the word courage is core, which is French for heart. So it's really about following that path of heart, not following everything that society says this is what you have to do to fit in. This is what success means, but figuring out all of that for yourself and realizing that, no one is youer than you. That's kind of a Dr. Seuss line that I love, that there's no one like you. There are, 8.5 billion people on the planet, and there's nobody exactly like you. And you're here for a reason. And you're here to let your light shine and to make a difference in the world. So being authentic is really showing up as your true self. And when you do that, you give other people a chance to do the same, that we're not competing with each other. It's not about social comparison. It's about each of us being our best self and then also empowering other people to do the same thing.
Wow. So I would imagine when someone is, in their midlife, they have like this, self-imposed identity for so many years now, and they might be reluctant to let that go and reshape their identity. So based on your experience working with clients, how can people kind of push back against their, I guess, quote unquote, identity to embrace something that's more authentic for themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, there's two ways to go about it. So let's say imagine, so is there a language that you've been wanting to learn? Just language you've been wanting to learn: French, Spanish, Italian. So imagine there's a language you want to learn. So let's say you want to learn French. So you can say, I'm going to go to Duolingo. I'm going to learn a couple words a day. And that's how you go about learning French. Or you can just say, you know what? I am just going to book a one-way trip to Paris, and I'm going to get an Airbnb, and I'm going to live there, and I'm going to just have to speak French. So with the whole, breaking out of the shell and being your authentic self, you can do it both ways. Like for me, I kind of blew my life up a bunch. I left a marriage that wasn't working for me, kind of created this new identity as the Midlife Whisperer, really felt like I was being called to lead people into finding themselves. Or you can do it in little ways. So maybe you want to find like-minded people. Maybe you want to join an organization or start by reading some books or kind of experiment with things you like to do as a child. So you can do it like the Duolingo way of learning a word every day and just doing little new things. But it's all about taking those steps. Or you can do really big things and saying, you know what, I've got clients who have literally moved across the world. I have clients who've sold everything and gotten an RV. I have clients who have totally like changed their careers, people who've like written books and that's what they're doing now, really made big radical changes. Or you can make small changes. It's really up to you, but you've got to do something. And as you step forward, you start to see those breadcrumbs, and then something else happens and something else happens. But if you stay stuck kind of in your fear, right, and just not moving forward, then you're never going to connect with your authentic self.
Great. So it sounds like breaking out of patterns and trying something new is key in general, right? No matter which part of life you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a part of that too is knowing that you do have control over your thoughts and your beliefs. So, we think that what our beliefs are all true, but you can really change your beliefs and your thoughts. So just simply being more positive, doing more things that generate positive emotions, the research really shows that will help you to see more positive things in your life and connect with more of your true self. So there's a theory called the broaden and build theory, which is Barbara Fredrickson. And she really found that the more positive emotions you have, the more you broaden and build your ability to see more positive emotions and have more positivity. And I think that really helps you connect with your true self. So getting out of that kind of that complaining and negative mode really keeps you stuck, because you're looking at problems and you're blaming things on other people or on world events, instead of saying, you know what, I have agency, I'm empowered, I'm going to make some changes. Having more of a positive mindset can really help you move forward.
Yeah. So what are some like practical things that people can do on a daily basis to get in touch with the positive emotions more?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, do more of the things that light you up and less of the things that drain you. So when I'm working with a client, and this is something I mentioned in my book, Rock Your Midlife, I have people make a list for a day or two of everything you're doing. And as you go through your activities, notice what activities light you up, when are you in flow, where you're in that sense of time kind of stops and you're really enjoying what you're doing, and then noticing what's really draining me. So that's a real clear indicator of what you want to do more of. So do more of those things that light you up, that make you happy, that generate positive emotions, and less of those things that drain you. Another thing that's really powerful is gratitude. So that's a great way to shift your vibe. So just finding things every day that you're grateful for. So no matter where you are in life, there's something to be grateful for. If you are listening to this podcast, you have electricity, you probably have running water, you probably have food. There's a lot to be grateful for. Just being alive, the fact that you exist is something to be grateful for, the people in your life that you love. So practicing gratitude is like proven to raise your vibe, to make you happier. That's a really powerful thing to do. Moving your body is great. That's a really easy way to getting exercise is a great way to shift your vibe, to feel more positive. Another technique that I love is called savoring. So when something good happens, you really want to take it in. You want to pause. So if something great happens at your workplace, or, you hear from a friend, or, something happens great with your child, take a moment to really take it in. So, Rick Hansen, who is a well-known psychologist, he says that positive emotions are like Teflon. They kind of slide off. Negative emotions are like Velcro. They stick. So in order to have more of those positive emotions, we have to kind of slough off more of the negative ones. So when they show up, we have to sort of question them, let them go. And then when good things happen, we kind of have to take them in. And I guess a final thing too is to practice mindfulness, which just means being more present in your life. You can't find your passion and purpose if you're not paying attention to really what's going on and being present in your life. And there are just reams of research around how mindfulness and also meditation really helps you with stress, anxiety, depression, and really also helps you more with that well-being, connecting with your passion and purpose. So I would say meditation, mindfulness is great. And of course, self-compassion, which is just treating yourself the way you would a good friend. So those are just a couple of techniques that anybody can use. They're all free, that you can get into a daily habit of practicing to really live a very high vibe life.
Great. Wow. Thank you. So you brought up the magic word purpose. And I want to ask you, so for someone in their midlife, they've been living for so long, why would you say they need a purpose? What are the benefits of having a purpose and discovering it?
Well, I think that that's really what we're here for, right? And I think, particularly the world's a mess right now. So, you just need to look at the news, and between what's happening in the environment, what's happening politically, what's happening with the virus, the world is a mess right now. And I think that each and every single one of us is here to make a difference in that. So whether that is, working in a soup kitchen, giving money to some place that is really struggling right now, having less, being living lighter on the earth. So finding out, finding out what am I upset about instead of complaining about it, figuring out that is a clue to what your purpose is. So, your purpose, it's called your ikigai in Japanese, is really what gets you out of bed in the morning. Like, who doesn't want to wake up joyful, energized, and excited to start your day? So it's in this present moment where you're at, it can give you so much juice to go about your life and to live such a beautiful life, so that, when you get to the end of your life, you look back and you don't have any regrets. And you think, wow, I just really did rock my 20s, my 30s, my midlife. I had an amazing life. And I made a huge difference in the world. I can't think of, something that's more important than having a purpose and making a difference in the world and making the world a better place. Right now, I feel like everything is getting everything is spiraling kind of out of control, but it's spiraling forward. And it's showing each of us that there are things that we can do. I feel for me, my purpose is to wake people up, particularly women at midlife, and say, hey, you've got wisdom, you've got resources, you have knowledge, you can inspire other people. There's so much that you can do. Find something that lights you up, and do it, and let that lead you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. If each of us did that, we would be more content inside, and we wouldn't need to put other people down. We wouldn't need to lean into, buying things so much and buying food and things to try to feel okay. And the world, will start to is starting to shift as we all do our part. So I think it's really finding your purpose is really what life's all about.
Yeah. So what would you say are some practical things that people can do when they're thinking about, what is my purpose, to really pinpoint what their purpose is and then step into it?
Yeah, well, I think some of the things I said before. So it's just figuring out like who you are, what makes me authentic, when am I comfortable, in terms of groups. So knowing yourself and knowing where you fit in and where you stand out, what you love to do, connecting with your creativity. If you're listening and thinking, gosh, I'm not creative, that's bunk. Every human being is creative. We are creating all the time. We are creating our lives. We are creating meals. We are, creating posts. So thinking about what lights you up, where are you creative? So that's the first step, is really being authentic. And that's the first step in my book. The second step is loving yourself enough so that you want to live a big, beautiful life. The third step is really energizing yourself. So if you want to, find your purpose, you've got to have energy. If you're tired all the time, you're not taking care of your body, you're not eating right, moving your body, exercising, dealing with stress, you don't have the energy. You're just in survival rather than thrive mode, right? So you have to take care of your body. The fourth step is working on your mind. So what we were talking about before, about staying positive, working on, being focused, figuring out really the things that you can do to move forward in your life. The fifth step is empowerment. So figuring out what brings me power, not power from without, but power from within. How do I connect with my authentic self, my power? The seventh step is your relationship. So looking at, what relationships keep me stuck? Who are those people in my life who kind of put me in a box and tell me I have to do this and I have to do that, which get in the way of my purpose? And who are those people in my life who are saying, yeah, come on, let's do this thing. You're awesome. I want to support you. How can I help you? So relationships are super important. And then finally, my last step in my 7 steps is enlightenment. So really your connection with God, source, spirit, whatever you call the divine, that connection is really, inside of you and outside of us. We're part of all that is, having that divine connection, having that divine spark, and kind of taking off those lampshades and saying, this is who I am. This is what I'm here for. This is what I love to do. And I don't really care if other people don't like it. That's okay. There are 8.5 billion people on the planet. Not everybody has to like me, but I'm going to find my tribe. I'm going to shine my light. I'm going to do my thing and make a difference in the world.
Great. Thank you. So I want to go back to your point about power. How does one know what that feels like once they find their true power? And how can people identify what their power is?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, I think initially we can even think about power and feeling it in terms of our posture. So emotions are felt experiences in the body. So people are listening, like you can hunch over, like really hunch over in your chair and get really small and notice how you feel. And then you can do like the victory, put your arms up and notice how you feel. And so thinking about times in your life where you are more in that sort of yang, powerful, initiating, motivational, inspiring place. So connecting with, other people who inspire you, who you feel are powerful. Reading autobiographies can be really helpful. Joining various Facebook groups. I think we all need motivation, support, getting a coach. But I think we know it, you feel it in your being, right? When you're on the right path. And, you get to this point when you're really on the path and you have found your passion and purpose, where you stop doubting and every day is just sort of another step in the right direction. Like I'm, in the process of doing this book. And so it's not, I don't have to think about, gosh, what's next for me? It's like, okay, I'm finishing this chapter today. And now I'm like working on the cover, and now I'm working on the publicity. And now I'm working on getting the word out with podcasts. So things start to organically unfold when you really are living your purpose and you're really in that powerful place, as opposed to a disempowered place where you're always kind of in fear and self-doubt and like looking to other people for direction instead of looking within. So it's kind of it's kind of a vibe, like I said, when you feel that you're in that victory place where you're feeling powerful, or that yang stance in martial arts where you feel empowered and you feel kind of fierce.
Great. And now I want to ask about relationship. So like I think the easy part is like letting toxic negative people go, but how do you attract positive, like-minded people who have a sense of purpose into your life? What can we do to find them and connect with them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, really, like attracts like. So that's the basis of the law of attraction. So if you are putting yourself out there and doing positive things, you're going to attract, more positive people. So I think also, getting engaged with organizations and groups, whether that's online or that's in your, face-to-face, day-to-day reality, that are doing positive things. So volunteer, like I do hospice volunteering, which is one thing that is part of my purpose, changing the way we look at death and helping people through that period of their lives. And I meet amazing people. I'm part of, on Instagram, there's just incredible midlife women who are doing everything from letting their hair turn silver, and they're all supporting each other, getting fit at 50, inspiring each other. So, you can even just use hashtags like inspiration or motivation, and just finding people that you resonate with. And then, being okay with letting the people go who drag you down, just noticing again, energetically, who are the people that I'm with who complain all the time, who, put me down, who tend to, not see me as this passionate, purposeful person, and who are the people who really support me and love me and I enjoy being with. So I think that's something that happens, at midlife. I think at various times in life when we're transforming, we really start to attract people who are resonating with who we are. And then we have to let go of some relationships that don't work in our life anymore.
Great. And so the last tip you mentioned is about connection with your spirituality, spirit, soul, consciousness, source, whatever it's called. So for people who aren't spiritual already, how should they go about it? And like, I would assume their mind will get in the way and try to convince them, oh, that's not logical, blah, blah, blah. So like, what can people do to overcome that and still accept spirituality into their life?
Yeah, well, first of all, change your thoughts, because you are spiritual. We are spirit in, you can look at it and say, I'm a human and I maybe go to church and have a spiritual experience, or you can say I'm a soul having a human experience. So sort of changing your thinking and realizing like you're a miracle. Like the fact that billions and billions of years ago, there was this big bang and these stars formed, and that we were basically made of hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen, right? And we're just it's amazing to be alive. So just sort of take in the miracles that is life itself, and that we are alive, and that we are talking, and that you're listening to this and you're taking in these words. When you start to see how amazing life is and that everything is a miracle, you start to really connect with that sense of spirit, that sense of wonder, that everything really is a miracle. Even as difficult as life is, and with all of the challenges that our world is facing, the fact that, we're on this rock, right? Third rock from the sun that's spinning around, so rapidly. And there's this thing called gravity that's keeping us here, and that human beings have this consciousness. It's pretty mind-boggling. So I don't, you can get kind of lost in thinking about how amazing it is to be alive. I think the easiest way to connect with spirit is to just get quiet, spend some time. You can meditate if you'd like. You can, spend time in nature. I love to swim, doing things, listening to music. Find where is that place where you find inner peace. And, and if you're looking to connect with God, source, spirit, just ask, just be like, okay, God, I know you're kind of out there and I'm not sure what you are, but can you help me figure this out? And then be open to what shows up in your life. And you might be surprised. I know I did that in my 20s and it was like, wow, spirit was there. Things started happening, coincidences in my life that let me something like tapping me on the shoulder saying, yep, we're here. It's happening. It's really, really is a reality. We, are very much in this sort of 2D world, but there's a whole 3D world out there to explore. So the bottom line is that you are already spiritual. And it's just bringing more of that out, bringing more of the sacred, even, even food, thinking about, my gosh, this food came from the sun. Everything that is alive came from the sun. It's kind of mind-boggling. So to just reading is great too. Inspirational books, podcasts, music. There's so many wonderful ways to connect with spirit.
Yeah, there are nowadays. It's amazing. So I'm really curious. So I'm sure you work with a lot of women in their midlife and help them find their purpose. So are there any like particular stories that you can share of how they made that transformation?
Yeah, let me think okay, so I have one client who I adore, and she grew up literally, she came to me and she was really struggling with, most of my clients when they initially come with me, they're struggling with usually eating and alcohol. And it's not like they're alcoholics and they're drinking like their 3 bottles of wine, but just a glass or two of Chardonnay and cheese, and the pounds are packing on and they're feeling really kind of depressed. And so that's often my clients come to me. And so we start figuring out what it is that they love, what they loved as a kid. So this particular client grew up next to a circus. She grew up, her parents actually had an amusement park. And as a kid, she loved circus. She would like dress up as a clown. She'd hang out with the trapeze artists. And she just was in this wonderful world of circus. So thinking about like, what did you love to do as a kid? So that's one of the things I start with. Like for me, it was all about dance. I love to dance. It made me feel so joyful and alive. It still does. So we started exploring that. And, she started incorporating circus into her life. So she went to circus school. So she did like a weekend circus camp, got in shape, actually went out on the trapeze. She wrote a book about her experience with circus. She started bringing in circus memorabilia. Now she does like public speaking and videos and things. And then she incorporates circus into her life. And so it's not her total purpose, but like part of her purpose is to bring joy and pleasure to other people's lives. And one of the vehicles to do that is circus. I have another client who was working in a nonprofit, working for a number of nonprofits. And she did a combination of two things. She did some traveling. She actually met somebody and she moved to Australia, which was just phenomenal. Like she was just like feeling like Cinderella out there in Australia. She had a dream of starting her own business. And now she actually helps other people in nonprofit, and coaches them. And she's really loving doing her own business. I have a lot of clients who have, found their passion and purpose through writing a book, and that has opened doors. But the key point is that you have to start. So, connect with those breadcrumbs from your childhood, from your teens, your 20s. What courses did you love as a kid? When was the first time you saw an adult doing something and you were like, oh my God, I want to do that when I grow up? And then start to do those things and be open to what shows up for you and face your fears. I think a lot of times we are so comfortably uncomfortable doing the same old thing. Our brains are not designed to make us happy. Our brains are not designed to help us find our passion and purpose. They're designed to keep us safe and keeping that same old boring job, staying in that, dead end relationship, having that threesome with Ben and Jerry's and not working on your health and well-being. We're safe. But in stepping outside that is a little scary. So a good way to connect with your passion and purpose, get started, is start to do some things that scare you. And maybe that means like you go on a roller coaster ride, or you jump off a cliff into water, or you book a trip on a vacation. You got to start somewhere and get unstuck. And that will help to open doors for what's next for you.
Wow. So let's say someone does do those things that scare them, and then, they get a thrill of it, but then they revert back to their comfortable lifestyle. And then that's it. Like it didn't really stick with them. Do you find that to be the case for a lot of people? And what can they do about it if that's...
Sometimes I find that around, I don't find it if people are really moving from their heart. If they're doing the courageous thing, following the path with heart, you start to feel so good that you don't go back. I think, sometimes it happens. Like I've seen people, like what I see sometimes is people do things like dietary change to lose, like weight loss, for example. Weight loss is really looked at as a temporary thing. But if you take a look more and you really look at the health journey as something that's in alignment with your core values, like I love my kids and I want to be here for them. I want to be a good example for them. If you line it with your values, if you really do some deep work, I generally see people moving forward, not backwards, particularly people who work with me, who follow me, who really want to make a difference. Because once you taste how good it is, you don't want to go back. Like for me, I was living like a caged jungle tiger. And now I'm a free tiger, and there's no way I'm going back to that caged life. So I think that when you feel how good it is and you connect with your true self and you see that the things that you were scared of were just figments of your imagination, you don't go back.
Mm. Yeah, that's very encouraging to hear. Thank you. So now I'm really interested in hearing about your journey and your journey towards your purpose. So where would you say you are at on your journey towards your purpose now? Have you found it, working towards it, living it, embodying it? What would you say?
Oh, I'm living and embodying it. Yeah, no, I am rocking my midlife. My personal life is amazing. I live on a wonderful romantic island in the Champlain Islands of Vermont. I have an amazing partner. My health is awesome. We have adventures all the time. I'm just having so much fun. And, in terms of my purpose, I'm inspiring other women. Maybe women aren't going to do as much as I'm doing or do what I'm doing. But, it's just very inspiring to see that I'm helping other women. When I see women, I had a client the other day and she was, she's shifted her life a lot, but it showed up in her physicality. Like it showed up, most of my clients are kind of on the cusp of 50 and her body fat percentage was way down. Her doctor was like, what happened? And it was really like she got out of this sort of cortisol shitstorm, this sort of always chasing stress, being stressed and tired and being a people pleaser. And she's, I see these people who are so happy now and the sky's the limit. And so it's just such a joy. And, I'm really looking forward to changing the way people perceive midlife, to see midlife as a really rich, beautiful time where you get 25, 30, 40 years to really enjoy. I'm empty nest now. My kids are 20 and 24 and I love them dearly, but they're on their own journey and I've got space, I've got time. So I am definitely embodying it. I am living my passion and purpose, both personally and professionally.
Wow, that's amazing that you're living and embodying a purpose now. But how did your journey first started for you to even start thinking about your purpose? Was there like a aha moment or a low point in your life which made you kind of question everything?
I've had a lot of those, actually. I like to think about astrology. We have the Saturn return. So every 29 and a half years or so, Saturn goes around the sun. So when Saturn's going around, you're hitting your Saturn return when you're about 29 and a half, or where I'm right now at 58 or so. What happens is it's kind of like a big wake up call from the universe to get serious about like what's next. So, I kind of got off my path in my 20s and followed this very conventional. It had a lot of good aspects to it, but, got married, had the kids, had the house in the suburbs. This was everything that I'd been taught that success was. And then I totally was like, this is not my trajectory. I did not like the person I was married to. I was not happy. I didn't want to be with that person anymore. And although it was very secure, and when you're in a 25-year marriage, you're very dug in. There's a lot of, financial fears, fear of being on your own. I left. And so that was a big turning point for me to say, this is not who I want to be. And it's taken me about 4 years to become the person that I am today, where I feel really great about myself and really, really love my life and the people in my life and the work that I'm doing. So kind of these reckoning points were at that 29 and a half, where I kind of got off my path, got on a different path that was, some aspects of it were of me and some weren't. And now I feel like I'm really, really authentic and living the way that I want to live on my terms.
So going back to that transitional period when you decided to get divorced and things were very vague and ambiguous, what did you do to figure out who you wanted to be today? And did you have any missteps? Like, how did you figure out which path to take? And yeah.
It was a mess. It was a mess. It was definitely dark night of the soul, where everything falls apart. I just knew that I didn't want to be in this relationship anymore. I had grown a lot and had grown apart. I think for me, the big thing really was self-compassion. So I was fortunate enough to learn self-compassion. It was the topic for my PhD in psychology. I did my dissertation on body image and women and self-compassion. So I met Kristen Neff, who's the pioneer in this area, studied self-compassion. Basically, I think of it as the how of self-love. And as I love myself, I couldn't do things that insulted my soul anymore. I couldn't be in a relationship where I was mentally abused, where I was yelled at, where I was criticized, where I did not feel loved and supported. And so that jungle tiger came out and was like, and that was like, just, I'm out of here. And so, but I made a lot of mistakes. I got in relationships that weren't great. My retina detached 3 times and I literally went blind.
Wow.
I had a lot of ups and downs before, it took me, like I said, about 4 years and changes professionally to get to where I am now. But that's part of what happens. It's kind of like, a chick breaking out of the shell. If they don't break out of the shell, they'll die. Basically, the chick starts to peck because they are running out of food. And you can't help the chick. If you help the chick get out of the shell, if you're like, oh, I'll just break this little shell open for you, they're not going to develop their physicality to the level that they need to. But if you've ever seen a chick when they come out, they're just wet and exhausted. They're just like a tired mess. So, sometimes you go through that hot mess stage, especially if you're going to do I'm moving to Paris and learning French versus I'm going to learn a couple words every day. But it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, most of my clients don't blow up their lives and make huge changes. We kind of prototype things and move more slowly. But sometimes that does happen to people where they have big changes like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did you have like a North Star of where you wanted to go that kind of propel you forward, that kind of prevent you from thinking, oh, I made a mistake it was so comfortable back then. Now I don't know what I'm doing. Everything's a mess. So like, how did you stay focused and propel yourself forward?
That's a great question. Well, I had lots of fears and doubts. And there were times like, oh my God, why did you do this to yourself? I mean, part of it is that you burn your doors, right? You burn your doors, you burn your bridges. So there is no going back. And, there's the self-compassion. I think that's a big piece of when you're going through things, treating yourself like a good friend. So having had that resource, that ability, because self-compassion is literally like a muscle, something that you can learn and develop. So I think that was a big piece of me going forward. And I had supportive friends and family. The people who were truly my friends supported me. My family supported me. So I was able to move forward and create a life that is ultimately very satisfying.
Awesome. So at the time you were getting a PhD in psychology, right? When that happened?
No, I had already gotten the PhD.
Okay.
I was done with the PhD. Yeah, I was already a PhD psychologist.
Okay. And so you were a professional psychologist at the point when it happened?
No, I was coaching. So I'm not, I'm a professional. I guess if you think about it as coaching. So when I, left, I had a coaching business.
Okay. Did you always know that was your purpose, to coach people? What was that journey like for you to have that aha moment?
No, because there wasn't such a thing as coaching really way back when, coaching is a relatively new field. I found coaching because I was working as a personal fitness trainer. So I was a dietitian, and then I was a journalist. And then my ex-husband and I were celebrity chefs, and we wrote books and had a nationally syndicated radio show. Then I became a personal fitness trainer. So I had a lot of things. And why I was a personal fitness trainer, and partially when I was a clinical dietitian, I was noticing that people were not making change. And I actually was at a training to be something for being a fitness trainer. And I met someone and he's like, you should try coaching. Like, you'd be a really good coach. And he told me about well coaches. So I became a coach, and coaching has been fabulous. And coaching led me to get my PhD in psychology. And so that's how I became a coach. And I love coaching. I think coaching is a fantastic profession for people who are really interested in self-development and helping other people. I'm a Sag, so I'm all about finding your passion, finding your purpose, really rocking your life. And so I love, love, love coaching. It's very different than therapy. Therapy is, really helping people heal what's wrong in their lives. And therapy is awesome and super important. Things like trauma, depression, anxiety. But coaching looks at the person as being whole. And the coaching is like, I know you're that seed, and I am here to help you water it and fertilize it, shine sunlight on it, and let's see where it grows.
Wow, I love how you put that. So it sounds like you've always been into helping people to grow, being a nutritionist and fitness personal trainer. But how did you even began on that path before you became a trainer?
Well, I first became a dietitian just because I was trying to transform my life. And the dietitian thing was kind of interesting because I was kind of obsessed with being thin and felt like if I became a dietitian, I'd learn everything about food and have peace around calories and food and weight. And of course, it made things worse. It was a whole journey of me learning self-compassion to make peace with my body. The personal fitness trainer thing, and this is, if you're listening, finding your purpose, look for those signs. I literally got a postcard in the mail. I was kind of looking for my next chapter after my ex-husband and I stopped what we were doing as celebrity chefs. And I got a postcard to be a personal fitness trainer because they sent it out to dietitians with just bulk mail. And I was like, oh, I've always been a jock. Like I ran track, I did gymnastics. I love to exercise. And I thought, this could be fun. So I did the training and I, knocked on Gold's Gym down the street from us where I worked out and started working with people and loved it.
Cool. And then was there a point when you realized, oh yeah, that's my purpose? Or was that something you realized looking back?
Well, I think whenever I am in my purpose, I'm realizing it's my purpose. And then when something isn't challenging anymore, or I need a break from it, then there's not something new. So like right now, I'm kind of curtailing my coaching. I mean, I'm still open to some clients, but I've really, I'm being, particular with the people that I work with right now. And I'm only working with a few people, and I'm really focusing more on my book right now. So I find like, where is my energy right now? And my energy, I can sense that I'm moving forward, and I'm always wanting to be challenged. So, once I've done something, I'm kind of on to doing something new and always growing and learning. So just listening to my inner self, that again, that courage of listening to your heart.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. Now we'd like to go to a lightning round where I'm just going to ask you some short rapid fire questions, and you can answer as short or as long as you want. Are you ready?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. What is one thing you like to do to relax?
Color.
Oh. What's one thing you like to do for fun?
Swim.
What is one thing that makes you enthusiastic?
Dancing.
And what is one habit you always do for a great day?
Meditate first thing in the morning and
Nice.
do my 5 Tibetans. 5 Tibetans. You can Google it, but it's 5 different exercises that you do 21 times each that helps you to get your chakras moving in the right direction, spinning.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'll check that out. What is one habit you are working on?
Oh my God. Being
Or
more
would like to have?
organized.
Mm.
I am not organized.
Cool. And what is the most important lesson you've ever learned? What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah, just be yourself. Nobody can tell you you're doing it wrong.
And what is the book that changed your life?
Oh my gosh, that is a really hard one. I really have to, I don't have one single book that did it.
What's the first one?
Trying to think of the first one that comes to mind. I'm going to say The Little Princess, because that was the first book that I learned to read. I had dyslexia and learning disabilities when I was a kid, and I couldn't read and I couldn't read. And then that was the book that clicked for me. So that was a book that changed my life in a really good way. I know it sounds really strange, but it's a good book.
What was it about that book that clicked?
It was just where I learned all of a sudden I could read. Like one moment I couldn't read. I mean, my tutor was teaching me and working on me. It actually happened to be my mom. I was her master's thesis, and something clicked. I got into the story, lost sense of time. And And I think I would say the latest book I've read that's been awesome is the book Breathe by James Nestor. And breathing is really a powerful tool for people who are listening to help you to connect with your true self and have more energy and be healthier. So that's a new awesome book that I read recently.
Do you do breath work?
I do.
Yeah. Which style do you do more often?
Lately I've been doing the 4-7-8 Andrew Wiles, and I like box breathing, which is 4-4-4. So those are kind of two, and belly breathing is always really good too.
Yeah, I love breath work. Cool. If you're not doing what you are doing today, what would you be doing instead?
What would I be doing instead? I'd like to be doing some philanthropy. I just see so many problems in the world, particularly with women who are really struggling, and also just teaching people how to eat right. I'm a dietitian, and it's part of what I do, but our food supply is a mess. Everything is processed, and there's, the food industry has taken our taste buds hostage with sugar, fat, salt. So, maybe that's something I'll do for my next purpose, right? After I finish this chapter, is make a difference in how people eat and how people treat their bodies, and not looking at lifestyle change as a punishment, but looking at it as a joy that's actually really, really fun and can taste awesome.
Awesome. Cool. And how would you describe your ideal life?
I'm living it, baby. I'm living it. I am. I get up. I have an amazing partner, spend a little time doing spiritual work, go downstairs and either work with clients or do some writing work or do some posting and sharing with people, do some exercise, yoga, meditation, swim, kayak, bike, go out to my garden and pick lunch, work a little bit more, and maybe do a little bit more movement exercise, and read, relax, spend some time with my partner, and do it again the next day. So I don't think I'd add to that is, hopefully things will change with the pandemic and there'll be some travel there because I would really like to do some traveling and some touring and sharing around my book.
Wow, yeah, that does sound like a perfect day. Nice. And how do you define purpose?
Purpose, doing what lights you up and what you're here to do to make a difference in the world.
Great. And lastly, do you have any requests you would like our listeners to do?
Requests other than check out my book, Rock Your Midlife, 7 Steps to Transform Yourself and Make Your Next Chapter Your Best Chapter. Connect with me on social. I'm the Midlife Whisperer, so you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook. But mainly, if you're stuck, get some help. So there are coaches out there, there are therapists, there are friends, there are books. You are here for a reason. So if you are stuck, you're listening, maybe this is your sign to get off your duff, get unstuck, do one small thing today that's going to make a difference in your life, and your future self will thank you for it.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you. And I'll make sure to include all the links in the show notes. So thank you so much, Dr. Ellen Albertson, for being a part of a Work in Purpose podcast.
Well, thank you for the amazing work that you're doing. It has been my pleasure.
Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this episode with Dr. Ellen, the Midlife Whisperer, and that you are now motivated with the tools and insights to rock the next chapter of your life and make it the best chapter yet. If you'd like to find out more about Dr. Ellen and be notified when her book Rock Your Midlife comes out, be sure to check out the links in the show notes. And if you'd like to support this podcast, please subscribe, tell your friends about it, and rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. It would really mean a lot to me. And if you're new to this podcast, welcome. I really encourage you to listen to our past episodes. May your present moment, now and forever, be filled with light, love, and joy. Until next time, this is Wing, and thank you for listening to A Work in Purpose.